Alright, so today's knot is the double fisherman's knot. It has a couple different applications. One of them is tying two ends of rope together. So if you have two pieces of rope and you need a longer rope, you can use this to tie two pieces of rope together. Alternatively, if you tie two ends of the same rope together, you make a loop. And that, if you do it with the right size rope, you can make a Prusik loop, which has lots of applications which we'll talk about later. So we'll start with the double fisherman's. So you take the two opposing ends and you want to overlay them in opposite directions. And then you're gonna grab the rope and point your finger like a gun towards something that's not an end of the rope. So towards like the center of the loop. So then you take the other one that's going this way. So you're holding onto this one like a gun. This one comes through. You want to go over once. Then you want to cross over that, what you just did. Cross over behind it. And then you're going to come up and you're going to follow your finger through the way the gun is pointing. So you want to go through that way, the way the gun is pointing. Pull that. Boom. That's half of the knot. So now you want to flip it, and it's important that you flip it, just rotate it like that. So you go from here to here. Now you're going to do the same thing. Grab like a gun, pointing not towards the end, so you have the end in this hand, pointing towards the center. So you come across, then you cross over your rope, so you make a little X right there. Come back under. You're just doing the same thing as the other side. So you come under, and then you're going to follow your gun finger through that hole and out that way. When you pull it tight, so now if you grab the two non-ends and pull it, the knot will slide together, and that's your finished knot. So what's really important is if you look on this side of the knot, you have 4 parallel strands, and on this side you have X's. So you have X's on each side. If you don't have the 4 parallel strands on this side and the 2 X's on this side, then you did something wrong. It'll often appear like this. I'm just going to twist it to show where you'll have 2 parallel strands and an X. That's not quite it, so retie it. So you want that. And that's the double fisherman's knot. So when you have a loop like this, it's also a common knot tied for necklaces because it's adjustable. You can adjust the size of the loop. As you slide, you can slide those 2 knots apart like I showed them sliding together. This one's not very slippery. But as you slide them apart, your loop gets smaller. So if you need an adjustable loop, you can do that. Here I have an example of a much smaller one that you can see about the size of a necklace. And you can slide it and see now you have a much smaller necklace. So that way you can put it over your head and then adjust it to that tightness. Alright, and you can cut. So here we just have a little bit of a rope with some tension on it. It's tied off with a bowline at that end, a taut line at the other end. And we're going to discuss the use of Prusik loops and how we can tie a Prusik loop onto another rope for various applications. So what we're going to be tying here is the Prusik knot, and I'll discuss its applications in a sec. So it's a pretty simple knot. Just lay your line over the rope, and then you're going to come through the center, come through the center again, come through the center a third time, and then pull tight. So it's really important that after you pull tight, that all these bands still go from the outside to the inside. So I have to readjust these loops. So you want the part that was going through the center, your handle, to be in the center, and then each loop to go progressively outwards. Otherwise the knot won't be effective. So here you have that Prusik knot tied onto another rope. So what's really cool about this knot is it gives you directional tension, it binds in a directional way. So if I needed to pull the rope this way, if I pull, that knot locks. It's not moving. But if I release the tension on the loop, then the tension on the knot releases and I can slide it. So that way you can, if you need to, maybe you're pulling something with a pulley, you pull it through, and then you need to adjust your point of pull. You can then slide that down. Boom. Now you have a new place that you can pull from. Um, if any of you have ever heard of ascenders, they're a modern tool that allows you to climb ropes. They're just mechanical. They do the same thing. They lock when you pull a certain, and then when you pull a certain lever, they release and allow you to slide them. So you could actually climb a rope up a cliff using these if you had maybe a couple for your feet, a couple for your hands. Because when you put pressure on it, say you're standing on it, that locks it, and then if you had another one, you could slide it up to make a new handhold or a new foothold. And then you put your foot on that one, and you can slide this one up. So Prusik loops are really cool. Tons of applications. Really, really worth learning. So we'll go over that Prusik knot one more time. So I guess I should have mentioned at the start, this knot in your Prusik loop is that double Fisherman's that we started this out with. So you tie a double Fisherman's about this, right, small sized loop, and then you can use that to tie your Prusik. So we're going to tie that Prusik one more time. So we lay the rope across, you come up through the center, you're basically just wrapping it 3 times around, up through the center, up through the center, and then we want to pull tight, get everything together. And remember, you want to make sure that those loops go from inside out or outside in, depending where you start. But this handle is at the most inside 2 lines, and then follow it outwards. There should be no crosses in the loops. And there you have your Prusik. So it's important to note that you actually need a specific diameter of rope for whatever specific rope you're tying your Prusik knot onto. If it's too big or too small, it won't properly bind. So this one's actually probably maybe a little bit too small. The general rule is that you want your Prusik loop material to be about 60 to 80% of the diameter of the rope you're tying onto. So that's just a rule to follow. So if you know you have something that you need, be sure to get the right cord for that application.